Hello, and thank you for joining Michigan Planning today. I'm your guest, Bob Gibbs, and today we're delighted to have as our guest Jim Clarke, president of Robertson Homes in Bloomfield Hills. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you very much
for having us on.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Robertson Homes, its history.
Robertson Brothers was started right after the war, World War II, with Paul Robertson Sr. and his brother Covert, and they, started building on leftover lots from the Depression, and really did a lot of scatter lot development through Berkeley and Royal Oak and Beverly and another number of the communities that we're now back building in. And their first foray into more subdivision development would have been on Waddles Road in Adams. And they started building a number of projects, building on their own land, 10 or 15 years into the business. Paul Jr. Is an engineer by trade out of University of Michigan, was not invited into the business till after he'd spent some time learning about engineering in other companies, and then joined when we were building Adams Woods back in the, I think that'd be the 60s, and his brother David came in at the same time. We're now in a transition to a third generation in that Robertsons won't be owning the company, but they've graciously transitioned to a group of managers that Paul had brought on who've been working in the business for, plus or minus 20 years. So
we have a picture of the team, an early picture of the team on the screen there. Can you identify who's in the photo? So
that would be Paul Sr. on the left, his brother Covert to the right with a red tie. Paul Jr. in the white tan jacket, and his brother David, and that is Adams Woods in the background that they're building.
Oh, I remember Adams Woods when it was being built. Yeah,
one of the first condominium loans done in Michigan.
Really, it was a landmark project.
Yes. Yeah.
So here's a little history of the company. You want to describe it again?
Well, as I said, they build on lots, and then when Paul Jr. Came to the company, we started a sort of a process into building these condominium developments, and at points in time in our history, we called ourselves the Condo Kings by doing projects called Bingham Woods and the Heathers and Bingham Point, and a number of amenitized condominium communities. And we do one of those, and then a smaller community. We did Hidden Woods and Hidden Ravines. I think of some of the others, but
what's a condominium community? What does that mean?
So I like to describe condos in three different ways. The traditional condo would be your attached housing, where you have a common party wall to one of your neighbors, either vertically or horizontally. Above, stacked, if you will, and that's a true condominium where either common corridors, maybe private entrances, but all exterior maintenance, and you really own the inside surface of your wall. A second condominium type that was developed when there was a lot of trouble with the Platt Act, and developers couldn't get their projects through approval process. Some smart attorneys said, well, we can condominiumize the actual confines of a lot, single-family lot, and we'll call those site condos. So that's a second kind of condominium. Developers now do what they will call they're really site condominiums, but they shrink it in so they're not selling the ground around the unit, but the unit itself in the outside walls. So, in the true condo, you own to the inside surface of the walls. On a detached condominium, you may own just your unit, but not the yard. And then on a site condo, you'll own your property just as if it was a traditional platted subdivision. So
a site condo would be just like a subdivision where you have individual homes and lots, but it's technically a condominium.
Exactly. Exactly. No difference other than how it's recorded.
Here's a picture of a real landmark project that you did several years ago. Can you describe this project in Birmingham?
Yeah, I wish Paul was here to describe it. This was, I would say, his baby. Andres Dewani, who was a land planner such as yourself, came into town and put together a 2016 plan for Birmingham. And at the time, Paul capitalized on that and said, okay, it was a partnership with Stephen Ross, who was a major donor to University of Michigan, but they came in town looking for a builder-developer partner. And Paul was at a point in his career where he wanted to take on a 58-unit condominium development at the top end of the market with 3 floors of underground parking and a first floor of retail. So a true mixed-use project. And Victor Soroki was the architect. We had penthouse units with elevators in the inside of the units, and you can see the wonderful pavilion balconies all around. So it was a very exciting project and continues to hold its value today.
And it's called the Willets?
The Willets,
The Willets.
Excuse me.
And it's on Willets Street in Birmingham.
Yes, Willets and Bates.
And Victor Soroki was the architect.
Yes. And then Walbridge Aldinger was our GC on the core and shell, and we did all the finishes and the warranty work.
I was part of the Dewani team in '96, and during the master planning charrette, the related company attended the plan. And when they saw that the city of Birmingham may adopt Dewani's plan, they actually took some properties under control.
Yes.
And they were very enthusiastic about the potential for Birmingham.
So that's how that happened. We didn't know. It was brought to us as an owned asset, and they needed a partner. So it was a wonderful relationship.
So these are homes, condominiums on top of retail.
Yes.
And do people own those? Are they rented out? Or?
Yes. So these are the traditional first type of condo that I talked about, where you own the inside surface of your walls. The corridors are common area. The parking area is limited common area, and the retail is owned as a condominium separate from the individual units. So there's 2 associations, one that runs retail and one that runs the condominiums. And then a lot of them did rent out over the years. So every major coach that didn't make it here in Detroit's actually lived in the Willets as a rental with some investor.
And I think there's a lobby and a person, a greeter at the lobby. And in New York, this would be called the doorman building. And these are highly desirable. I don't live there, but it'd be a great lifestyle, I think, to live there.
Yeah, it's concierge, so it's
Is
wonderful.
it complicated to put restaurants and retail on the ground level of a building like this?
It is if you don't plan up front. So we had a little surprise that we were going to have a fish house and a steakhouse in the initial design. So we did a number of revisions in the building process and then raised the stacks and put charcoal filters on them, and really had no problems. But it's you've got to be very careful on your mixing of units.
Yeah, well, it's a tribute to the company. This is one of Birmingham's, I think, most successful developments that came out of the 2016 plan, and it's been I think, a landmark for the community.
Thank you. We're now building at 750 Forest, which is over across from Forest Grill, with a similar type product. So we like the area, and we love the product type.
So you provided this slide. This shows data on permits. What is this about?
Well, it just shows Southeast Michigan, which is, I think, a 9-county area, and it shows us, these are statistics through August. So as you can see, from excluding rentals, you can see single family is still struggling to recover. We're not back to where we were at the peak, which would have been somewhere around 20,000 permits combined, both multifamily and single. But you can see, we've been bouncing around it.
In case the viewers can't read the numbers, can you just give a couple of the highlights about what these numbers say?
Well, as you can see just along the bottom line, the grand total, we did 766 permits, single-family permits in 2016 through August, which is when these were through. We're based on 818 in 2017, 778. And this year we're only at 508, so we're still not trending, even with low interest rates. In housing, I think affordability is an issue, and there just aren't as many aren't as many developers in the business.
And these numbers represent building permits for all the builders in all the counties.
Yes.
I see.
Including homeowners. So if a homeowner's pulling their own permit.
And here's another stat about 4-year housing permit comparison.
Yes. So this is just showing an aggregate at the end of the year and the project in January through August again. 4,000. The last one was the monthly permit, then this is aggregated through August. So I think I misspoke. The prior slide was just the monthly permits. This would be aggregate permits through the month of
But
August.
the permitting is still down a little bit from
Yes.
peaks.
Yeah, so we're at 3,900 versus 58.
And then here's the major builders, Pulte, Robertson Brothers, Clearview Homes.
Yes, we're in Oakland County. We're still a long way from Pulte, but we're about fifth in the southeast Michigan area because it's a 9-county area, and there's areas we don't build, but holding our own here in Oakland County.
And these are permits over what period of time?
This would have been through that August period of
I see.
time.
And here's another chart.
It-
Permits, and you have Pulte, Lombardo, Toll, and Robertson Brothers.
So we have 3 national builders and a very good local in Lombardo Homes, and then Robertson Brothers. So, there's been MI, which used to be Pinnacle Homes sold. Pinnacle sold to MI, so you now have 3 national builders, Pulte, Toll, and MI, which is a big regional builder.
And Robertson Brothers has about almost 3% market share right now.
Yes, which
pretty
is up for
significant.
us.
Yeah.
Yes, substantially.
What's this chart show?
Well, I think what I was trying to show is, we're growing as a region, but we're not growing. There was some other stats, and it was not in here, but I think we've added 19,000 people in Southeast Michigan. So a lot of those would be focused in the Grand Rapids and Southeast Michigan areas, as opposed to some of the outlying areas in Michigan. So we are growing. We stopped losing population, and this shows the net migration is your graph on the bottom, which shows that we're still losing some population, but it's substantially less than it was. And then you have birth rates and in-migration. So we've stabilized in Michigan.
Compared to other regions in the country, is Michigan growing a little slower?
Yes. I mean, if you look at Texas and you look at the southern states, they're growing leaps and bounds. So it's a defined market. You have to, as we like to say, we have to play in lenses or spheres of population and demographic changes to be successful, because we're not moving in 20,000 people a year or a month. So there's limitations to what you can do.
And I read once that even if you have a flat population growth, you can still have increases in home demand, households.
Yes.
Because people get married and their children get their own homes and whatever.
You'll have household formation, you'll also have demolition, and you'll have new permitting, and then you just have demographic changes where a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial doesn't work for a age-targeted couple, so you'll have some of that movement amongst people. And then, people, as houses become available, moving into more desirable, or what they determine to be more desirable neighborhoods.
Speaking of demographics, I know we have an aging population in the country,
Yes.
particularly Southeast Michigan. This is a chart, a graph, a map showing the percentage of people 66 and older in 2000 in the Southeast Michigan area. The dark color
Yes.
represents where you have a large percentage of people that are 66 and older, which isn't very much of the county, the Southeast Michigan then. But this is the forecast by 2030. You can see it's almost dark red. There's going to be a mammoth boom of empty nesters and people retiring, looking for a different house type, won't they?
Yes. And we're building, we've sort of split our business. We're doing infill townhouses in some of the more urban core areas, and then we are also doing more suburban, if you will, age-targeted projects like we're doing in Bloomfield Hills for a buyer looking to sell their 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial and move into a ranch-style living. So the challenge is the density on those product types is generally less than the townhouses, and the land prices are always the same. So you're dividing by less units, and it makes it harder to build what that chart shows, which is a lot of age-targeted housing. So
Yeah, it's really called the age tsunami,
yes,
where it's going to change the housing demand. Like you said, people are going to be less inclined to want to live in a 2-story, 4-bedroom home. Maybe they'll want to downsize to a smaller, more compact home. Maybe even to an apartment rather than owning a home.
And you're seeing that with Redwood, who has done a number of slab ranch apartments in and around the metro area, where they're literally delivering a monthly payment, if you will, in a rental apartment for that age-targeted buyer. You're also seeing some of our competitors doing slab ranch homes to try and address the affordability issue. So really trying to get to that tsunami of let's get them the product that they want and they can afford.
Jim, a slab ranch doesn't sound very attractive. What's a slab ranch?
So basically a ranch-style home, all the bedrooms on one floor with no basement.
Oh.
So, accommodating storage in maybe a larger garage or in a drop-down stair, but saving the cost of the bedroom or the basement for those buyers.
Here's an interesting statistic I found online the other day, that by 2025, 75% of the households in America will have no children. Only 25% will have children. That's a major change from the 60s and 70s.
Yes. Yeah, we're addressing that by doing these infill townhouses, which are either 2 or 3 bedrooms or really 2-bedroom and a den. And we're seeing a lot of millennial buyers who are interested in that, either 1,100 or 1,500 square foot townhouse, which lives on 2 different levels. So,
are communities prepared for this change in housing demand? Are communities allowing the flexibility in zoning and density to allow the compact, smaller housing?
You hear a lot about form-based codes, and there are a lot of communities that need to address their aged codes, where they develop their zoning ordinances for single-family housing, and that's not what the market wants right now. So I think we're still in a transition area. Some of the smarter communities are addressing it and allowing the density, as long as the quality of design is there, because it drives the businesses, it drives the school district, it drives a lot of other positive things with the density.
We just proposed a compact development in the Ann Arbor area, in a rural community, and they said they considered 1-acre lots high density, and they didn't really want to plan for that tsunami that's coming this way. This is 750 Forest. This is one of your recent buildings. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that is another true condominium development. So this is right across from the Forest Grill at the corner of Elm Street in Forest.
In Birmingham?
In Birmingham. So it's a small Willets on the other side of Woodward, and we're 3/4 sold out. We have just a few units left, and it's for that urban buyer who wants to, I like to call it lock, load, and leave. Lock the door, load the car, and leave. There's a concierge here too. So you have enclosed parking on the first level, and then you have condominiums with a rooftop deck on the 3rd floor.
And whom have you been selling these homes to?
It's been a series of retirees, younger professionals, just a real good mix of Birmingham people who don't need the big house, and they maybe have a place up north or a place down south, and they want a place to stop over and be here.
And this is in the Birmingham's Triangle District, which I think is south of Maple, east of Woodward.
Yes, exactly.
Up and coming area.
Yes, very much so.
What's this on the corner? What's the corner mean?
So we are once again in a partnership with Eric Larson. The 750 Forest was another partnership deal with Eric Larson, where he owned the land, and he also owned a piece of the old Tiger Stadium land. So we partnered with him and developed townhouse condominiums in the corner of the old ball field. So you're now seeing a picture from a rooftop deck overlooking the old Tiger Stadium. The stadium dimensions were maintained. We were able to fit 34 townhouse condominiums in here, and we're down to 2 left to sell. So it's been very well received in Detroit. Surprisingly, the pricing has been very, how shall I say, there's a lot of demand, and we're selling houses in that location at up to $500,000.
So this is the old Tiger Stadium site at Michigan and Trumbull in Corktown.
Yes.
and you're selling new townhomes there. Who are your buyers in Detroit?
Once again, this is young professionals. It's two engineers, or it's a he and she working here in downtown Detroit, or working with Ford. And there are a couple of people who will be working with Ford when they open at the new train station. So it's a good mix of downtown employees. We have a sportscaster. We have a couple of people from Quicken Loans, and a lot of people related to the auto business.
So Detroit's a strong housing market downtown?
Detroit's one of the strongest housing markets, at least in my mind. I think that there aren't as many opportunities on the land. There's a lot of land that's been spoken with, and I think a lot of the planning in Detroit was for mid-rises, which are very expensive to do. And so I think the townhouses are a real good option. They build at densities approaching 20 units per acre, so they're certainly not low density, but they're not 50 units per acre like a mid-rise. So it's a real good in-between, and you pull in, you park your car, and you have your living above.
Let's just come back to those densities for a minute. You said they're building at 20 houses per acre, and in some cases 50 houses per acre. Those are huge numbers, aren't they?
Yes, so if you looked at 750 Forest, I believe that was up to 80 units in an acre. It was not a 1 acre site, and we had 24 sites on it. So when you go up in the air, obviously what you get is density. When we're building on the ground, one of the most efficient ways to build, if you will, is with these townhouses, in putting 2s, 3s, and 4 unit buildings together, and then using your land plan to gain efficiencies.
And that's why the new form-based codes, I think, have been adopted by a lot of communities, so that they're not zoning by the units per acre, but they're zoning by the quality of the building design and its shape.
Yes. Hold your developers accountable on the architecture, the amenities, the open space, and the exterior materials, and let the density be what it should be or can be.
So even at 20 houses, 30, 40 houses per acre, you can still have a high-quality house and a nice quality of life, even at that density?
Yes. Well, and I think when you're in these urban environments, the land is so scarce that density is what you should get. I mean, it's literally go out your front door and walk to a bar or a restaurant or an entertainment venue, or get on your bird scooter and go to your entertainment venue. So they're that close.
Yeah, and really, I think more is more in that kind of a community. More people live there, the more people will go to the coffee shop and the restaurant, and the better they'll be.
Yeah, it really drives. It drives the whole vibe, if you will.
But developing in compact, dense areas requires some help, doesn't it? Some cooperation from the public sector?
Yeah, in the case of Detroit, we were able to secure a brownfield, which enabled us to remove all the soils which were contaminated. It was rubble, and it was fill material, and so they really had to be taken off site. You could not use them. So you have in a cornfield you have pristine soils. In these urban environments, you're old foundations and old storage tanks and other things that need to be cleaned up. So in that case, we were able to secure a brownfield, which paid for that over time with the increase in the tax value from a vacant site to a developed site. There's a increase in the taxes, and the brownfield will let you capture a portion of that increase in taxes over a period of time.
What else can communities do to help incentivize development?
Density is certainly, work with developers on the planning. And some of the core communities, which are communities identified for redevelopment, you can get a OPRA or a NEC, which enables you to bring down the taxes on the units, which is very important in some of these older communities where their millage rates are higher. And you're really looking to get into a monthly payment for these first-time buyers. So communities will work with you on that. The core communities also have neighborhood enterprise zones. They have the brownfields, and that's really those are the major items.
But having the plan, having entitlements, and being legally allowed to build these is an important first step.
Yes.
And this sort of compact new development isn't just for downtown Detroit, is it?
No, we're Robertson. I keep using Robertson, but that's my whole history. We're doing the same thing in Ferndale and Royal Oak, in downtown Auburn Hills, downtown Brighton. anywhere we can be in, at, or around a downtown location, it seems the young professionals want to be. So we think that's a real win.
Is it an amenity to be able to walk to a downtown from your house?
Yeah, and they have, as you know, Bob, they have walk scores. So the better your walk score in terms of what's within a 5 to 10 minute walk of your door is highly desirable.
Yeah, the walk score is an app on your phones now that tells how walkable you are from 0 to 100. I think Birmingham has a 92 walk score. Petoskey has a 100 walk score.
Does it really?
Petoskey, yeah. Tell me about yourself, Jim. How did you become the president of a major home builder?
I started out at Michigan State. Actually, started out at Albion. Was there for 2.5 years and dropped out. Thought I wanted to be in hotel restaurant management, and took a job for a year in Houston, Texas, and really didn't like it. Re-enrolled up at Michigan State, and they have a wonderful building construction program, which I'd highly recommend for anyone looking to get into the business. I got very excited about the possibility of the program and completed that 4-year degree, and then started out in commercial contracting with Turner Construction. Then got into commercial real estate sales and development, and went to Robertson Brothers 30 plus years ago to do their land acquisition, and have through Paul's good graces have held a number of different positions at Robertson Brothers, resulting in presidency after 30 plus years.
And Michigan State University has a degree in construction management.
Yes.
So you can learn how to be a professional builder through the program.
We hire a lot of people out of that program. Eastern Michigan has a good program, but it's a very well-respected program to learn the single-family construction business.
So let's talk about some of the communities you're working on right now. We have shown Normandy Village in Royal Oak. What is that?
So Normandy Village was the city of Royal Oak took a vote that said if they used the proceeds from a sale of parkland for expanded park facilities, that the voters said you could sell 10 acres. So this was what we call an RFP, or request for a proposal, and a request for qualifications. Robertson Brothers was successful in winning this. So this is a split development where we do single-family homes, which you can't see here, but everything on the right-hand side and to the southern side, those houses all back up to a brand-new park that the city of Royal Oak is doing. The houses on the other side of the street have detached garages loaded off an alley, which is common with the townhouse condominium. So wonderful opportunity. The townhouses, which are shaded out on this view, are 1,500 square foot. So we have a mix of townhouses and single-family homes.
So there's single-family homes and multiple-family townhomes all in the same neighborhood.
Yes.
With alleys and rear garages.
Yes.
Interesting. We've only got another couple of minutes. What's this? This is Normandy Square again.
That's the townhouses.
Those are the
Normandy. Yep.
And a townhouse is where you have one unit with 2 or 3 stories tall, and nobody lives on top of you.
Right. First floor garage, second floor kitchen and living room, third floor bedrooms.
MISTA did a study on housing demand a few years ago, and the townhomes was by overwhelmingly the most popular housing type for Michigan.
It's a very efficient way to build, and it's you get a lot of square footage for your dollar.
We're going to end probably with Wilson Park. What's this in Ferndale?
Once again, this was we've bought a lot of school sites where, unfortunately, Southeast Michigan is not growing as fast as it should. So a lot of these school sites had buildings that were left over or were not, they were excess buildings. So they've gone out and put them up for auction, and we bid on this. We once again used a brownfield to take down the building, which was obsolete, and then we were able to bring new single-family homes to Ferndale. We thought when we did this project that the houses would sell in the 300 high 3s to maybe low 4s, and they've been selling in the low 4s to 500,000. So very good for Ferndale, and we're seeing a lot of tear down and redos around this neighborhood at Wilson Park.
Well, Jim, we're going to have you back again. Thank you so much. So the housing trends are changing. People are getting older. People are apparently wanting to live in more urban locations.
Yes.
And Robertson Brothers has gone really full circle from your original urban days to the suburbs back again. Any forecast on what the future housing is going to be in the next decade?
I think more of the same. I mean, I think people want to, I call it an implosion of the growth ring. I think people want to be closer in, less drive time. I think these more dense product types are going to continue to perform well as we change and look to affordability.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you here. You're really one of Michigan's premier home builders, and thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for joining us today on Michigan Planning Today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.